Welcome to Issues and Answers with your host, Diane Kinderwater. Issues and Answers is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. And now, Issues and Answers with your host, Diane Kinderwater.
Welcome to the program. I'm Diane Kinderwater. We thank KCHF TV for inviting all the candidates who are running for governor to be a part of our program. We're giving them not just a couple of minutes to introduce themselves to you, but a full half hour on Issues and Answers. We've invited them all, and those who have replied are being our guests. Today, I'm so proud to have a guest who is a caller outer of bad behavior and a caller outer of bad policy. My guest today is Rebecca DOW. She's a mother, a business owner, an educator, and a state rep. So please stay with us as we learn even more about Republican Rebecca DOW, who is running for the primary on the Republican ticket. And of course, the primary is this June 7th. So please stay with us as we meet even more about Rebecca DOW and why she wants to be your next governor. Stay with us.
The National Education Association of New Mexico, a union of teachers and school staff, believes every child deserves to learn at a school that inspires their imagination, cultivates their curiosity, and ensures a fulfilling life. Public schools should provide all our students with small class sizes and one-on-one attention. NEA New Mexico asks you to join us so together we can end the teacher and staff shortage and invest in our public education system once and for all. Sponsored by NEA New Mexico.
Welcome back to the program. My guest, Rebecca DOW, is one of the louder voices you might have heard in her objections to the governor's unchecked power during this past COVID situation. Of course, we're still seems to be in COVID, but she is one voice, one leader that we heard quite a bit from regarding that unchecked power. And there's so much more about Rebecca DOW, but I'm going to introduce her to you right now. Thank you so much for running for governor and for being a part of this program, Rebecca.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are a state rep.
Yes, ma'am.
Also a champion of defending New Mexico jobs. You call yourself a job creator, not a job destroyer. You fight regulation and you stand up for New Mexico rights. So I found all that out about you from reading the papers, seeing you in action as a House rep, and also looking at your very informative webpage. What else would you like to share with the audience about why you want to be governor, what you hope to do, and so many more questions.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for I consider it an honor to be someone fighting for less government and for more freedom. And so why I want to run for governor is, I've spent 6 years, I'm in my third term in the House of Representatives, and over that time I have watched it become more divisive and the voice of the everyday New Mexican lost up in Santa Fe. It seems there's a huge disconnect between the people who are in power and the people that they are basically running over our everyday lives. So it became clear to me in the last legislative session, it was really during the abortion debate, when there's such a heavy spirit in the Capitol, that I felt a burden to go ahead and run for governor. And so we announced in July, and we've been running gung-ho ever since. And just simple things from letting parents parent. I mean, this governor has chosen to mask our children and take away parents' right to make their health decisions for their own children for 2 years. And so, being involved in early childhood and working with vulnerable populations, there are children who were born in March of 20 who spent 2 years being cared for by someone with a mask on. And it's why we see this massive increase in the need for speech therapy in our state. We communicate nonverbally. So much of what we learn is through articulation and more than just a language, but how we see and view the world around us. And these children are struggling. And the governor had no right to take away a parent's choice in what would happen with their children. You are a state rep,
yes. District 38, which is around the TRC area, and also you're a business owner. You own, I think it's called Apple Tree.
Well, my husband and I own a company called DOW Technology. That's enabled me to start faith-based nonprofits in my community. So Apple Tree is a faith-based nonprofit that I started. I don't own it, and I don't serve on the board, but I am the founder. And we've created 78 jobs in Truth or Consequences. That's a big multiplier when you look at a town like TRC, and that's early childhood, after-school programs, behavioral health clinic, transitional housing, all things to help families become self-sufficient and move out of government dependency. We need to take that to a statewide level.
Wow, 78, that's a large employer in Sierra County.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, between employees and contracts, that's right. And most of those were women who had to get their GED or a high school diploma, enroll in college, and they pursued early childhood or an education degree, social work degree, marriage and family, and now they're giving back to the community as well and helping serve more families.
So that's your nonprofit that you founded.
Yes.
And it's going strong.
Yeah.
And again, the whole idea is to get people less dependent on government programs
Right.
and making them more self-sufficient. And you call yourself a job creator, not a job destroyer. What do you mean by that, Rebecca?
Well, I mean that, this state, we are a beautiful state, rich in natural resources. There's no reason why we shouldn't be performing at the top of our peers, Texas, Arizona, Colorado. But bad government, job-killing regulations are keeping us in the bottom. People deserve to get out of poverty, and the barrier is bad government. So it's time that we have a governor who listens to the everyday New Mexican, gets out of the way, lets people innovate, solve problems, and allows our communities to thrive.
Tell me a little bit about the business that you have with your husband.
Well, that's a multimedia technology firm, and so we do apps, hardware, software development, and we're able to do that from Truth or Consequences. And so we're very blessed to be able to do that. I grew up in Tier C, and so when I was a sophomore in college, my husband had graduated, and I was a sophomore in college and attending Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We came to visit my parents, and I saw the community through a different lens. I had 2 young children, and there was needs in my community, and I felt like I could take my entrepreneurial spirit, my business mind, and fill those gaps in my community. So we started with childcare, and then we added home visiting and pre-K, a Christian school, homeschool co-op, behavioral health services, and transitional housing for families post-incarceration. Yeah, so that's what I was doing over 23 years.
Wow.
Now those are nonprofits, and I there's no success without a successor, so it was easy for me to step away because we have fine people who've come along and believe in the mission and vision and a better future for Sierra County, and so that's allowed me to serve in the House and now run for governor.
Now this sounds very creative. Again, it's pre-K all the way through college.
It's really prenatal. So our focus is the parent. And what are their hopes and dreams, and how do they reach them? And childcare was a barrier because we didn't have any. But sometimes it's a young mom who finds herself pregnant and needs help at the time they find out they're pregnant. So prenatal through lifespan, really.
And post-incarceration as well,
Yeah.
included all of that.
Well, CYFD tends to reunite children, whether the families are ready to take on that responsibility or not. So we created a housing program. It's for up to 6 months if they're staying in programs for themselves and their children.
Where did all these ideas come from, Rebecca DOW?
Really just looking at the community, listening to community leaders and advocates, community-based organizations tell us what their needs were. So many families were saying we can't go to work, there's no childcare. So we need a safe place for children to be when their parents work and go to school. And I thought, well, if we have high quality early childhood, that'll take care of it. But then there was issues of homelessness and substance abuse and domestic violence. And so we just started adding programs until we got to this point of 4 different nonprofits and lots of different programs.
And you think that's something that could be taken on statewide?
It absolutely can. The most difficult thing and why I ran for House was it took 2 years to open up a child care center and 4 years to open up a behavioral health clinic. Just because of the barriers and the regulation and the sheer number of agencies and the red tape that you have to get through. So that's why I ran for House, was just to make it easier to do business in New Mexico. And I realized quickly that if our elected officials were listening to the everyday New Mexican, those barriers would be removed. But instead, they seem beholden to special interest groups, whether it's trial attorneys, extreme environmentalists, people who are giving big checks and sending lobbyists up there to carve out special interests for their industry. The everyday New Mexicans being left behind. That's pretty obvious with COVID. The shutdowns have caused us to lose 47% of our small businesses, closed forever. Children being kept out of school for 2 years. I mean, how do we make up this learning loss? It's going to take bold leadership and a course correction to get New Mexico in the right direction.
So those were the reasons you ran for House Rep. Mm-hmm. And now, since then, I guess you've seen things get even worse.
Oh my gosh.
Okay,
Michelle Lujan Grisham cannot be a 2-term governor. Our state can't afford it. I mean, she is beholden to Biden and Pelosi. She does not listen to the everyday New Mexican. She's controlled by extreme environmentalists, special interest groups like trial attorneys. I mean, in the middle of a workforce shortage, in a healthcare crisis, she champions a bill that created the highest medical malpractice liability in the nation. And now we're seeing the consequences of that. Our specialty physicians and our hospitals are having a hard time getting medical malpractice. We're seeing people leave the state. She's created these crises. We're an energy abundant state with a self-imposed energy crisis. Here we are sitting in Bernalillo County where brown outages and rolling blackouts are planned, are coming because of self-imposed energy crisis. We're shutting down Escalante, shutting down San Juan. We refuse to add natural gas to our clean energy portfolio when we are sitting on an abundance of energy. There's no reason for us not to have affordable, reliable energy in the state. It's bad government. Michelle's got to go, and I think I'm the person who can take her on.
You are from Sierra County. It's important to win Bernalillo County.
Yeah.
So what are you learning across the strait? What are you learning from the folks here in Bernalillo County about your candidacy? Again, there are a number of other qualified, good candidates running. How fortunate for the Republican Party to have a number of good qualified candidates. What do you think sets you apart from the other candidates and the importance of winning Bernalillo County when you're not from Bernalillo County?
Well, I am the candidate with legislative experience and with business experience. And so that gives me a great advantage. And it happens to be that the work that I've done is important to all of us. It's not partisan. That's emergency placement with CYFD, creating opportunities for families with young children. My children in their K-12 years went to homeschool, private school, public school, and they did dual enrollment. I started a K-12 Christian school, worked with a task force to bring dual enrollment to my community, and even when that was a closed door, we worked to get a homeschool co-op going on. Parents are in charge of their children's education, and people in Bernalillo whose children are stuck in the failing Albuquerque public school system know that we need aggressive reforms at Children, Youth, and Families and at Public Education Department in order for our children to thrive. And I'm the candidate ready to do that on day one.
It's not only important for a parent to have their child educated for the parent's sake, but it's also important for our community's sake to have educated children, because businesses will not be located in our state.
And certainly our children have suffered in our public school system under Michelle Lujan Grisham, but so have our teachers and administrators. We are just giving them more and more tasks to do that take them out of directly teaching our children. They want to spend time in the classroom, they want to do interventions. Instead, they're being mandated more and more unfunded mandates, trainings, paperwork that they have to do, when they really just want to be addressing our children's educational needs. I envision New Mexico where we reform crime, CYFD, Public Education Department, where children are born healthy, that they are safe in their neighborhoods. They can ride their bikes like we did in our neighborhoods. They go to a school that meets their needs. They graduate with a post-high school goal in mind, maybe not college, but something that allows them to make a good living right here in New Mexico, the state we love and call home.
And again, that's what every parent wants for their child.
And that's not partisan.
No, it is not. It's a parent's desire, but it's also our community, because we need a well-educated workforce, which
ready to hit the ground running when they walk across that stage with a diploma.
And again, your experience in the House. Tell me a little bit about the past legislative sessions and the successes. I know the Republican Party is a dramatic minority, and that's what the public has voted for. They voted for.
Well, we do have some pretty radical gerrymandering. I would say that the folks in New Mexico are much more moderate than what the representation looks like in Santa Fe, because of how gerrymandered we are, and because of our campaign finance rules that allow the leadership, which I consider radical liberals, whether it's Egoff or Worth, the leaders in the House and the Senate, and even Michelle, they are able to target moderate Democrats and take them out of office and replace them with very, very far left progressives. And so the voice is not representative of the everyday New Mexican. But it is who is elected. But so in the last legislative session, Republicans are outnumbered 2-1 in the House and the Senate. There were some bills that needed to die. Like the energy gas tax. It would have raised our gas prices by 50 cents. I mean, maybe even now at this point, with what's happening around the world, $1 a gallon. And so that bill was a very bad bill. And we have, only being outnumbered, we are allowed to debate. And we can debate a bill for 3 hours. And so I am so proud of the members of the House. We're outnumbered 2-1 in the House, and we debated every bill, concurrence bills, memorials. We gave personal points of privilege, and we spent a lot of time, 28 hours we went straight in the last 2 days of the session to kill some bad bills, bad energy bills that would have caused even more crisis for the cost of gas at the pump. What you pay for utilities to heat and cool your home would have just been skyrocketed. And so we killed that bill, as well as a really bad voter bill that would have created many opportunities for fraud.
What's interesting, Rebecca, and again, the public knows I worked up in the legislature, but the public thinks that, oh, they didn't get any work done, they didn't pass any bills. Well, how many bills do you want? How many regulations do you want affecting your life? So a philosophy is killing bills is a success.
Well, in this case,
legislation.
when all we're trying to do is just mimic and copy California or take these radical ideas that are being introduced in Congress right now, this governor is taking those bills and introducing them right here in New Mexico, a western state, a rural state, really, and imposing these regulations from California and from Washington, D.C. on New Mexicans. We needed to kill bills, and sometimes that's the best accomplishment you can have. But we did pass some good stuff. I was happy. It was an election year. If you watched the governor state to state, she sounded like she was plagiarizing the Republican talking points. I've been the co-sponsor of a bill to end the tax on Social Security income for a while now, and that's something that dies always. You know, the Democrats kill it. But this year, they passed a version. The Republican bill died, and they reintroduced a Democrat version that eliminates the tax on Social Security income up to $100,000 for individuals and $150,000 if you're filing jointly.
And again, what the public may not realize, if they're not of Social Security age, we all know that we are taxed on Social Security when they take it out of our checks. We're already taxed, and state of New Mexico, I think, is one of only 13 or maybe one of only one that taxes Social Security twice. It's when you use it,
and
it's
what's more important about that, I mean, that's wrong, and we need to do what's right. And our senior citizens in this state, when you are at that age, you're paying tax on your Social Security, you have premiums for your health insurance, you have deductibles on your prescriptions and your copays, when able-bodied young people in this state get everything for free. So what we're looking at is what's right, but also the ability to attract retirees to our beautiful state. They'll go to Arizona before they'll come to New Mexico because of our tax policies. And so I want to attract senior citizens, retired veterans, military veterans to come to the state who have disposable income, who have retirement benefits, and are able to contribute to the state and rather just needing our help.
And what do you mean by young, able-bodied people are given things? I think I know what you mean, but
I mean just that. I mean, people who are able to go out and be in the workforce right now under this governor are not responsible for paying their rent. They can say they can't afford their rent without any sort of other criteria and just stop paying it. I mean, they get free health care, they get free child care, they get free college. And we're not against building a workforce. But shouldn't it be a loan with forgiveness as you serve the community that raised you, or give back to the state that provided you this education and this opportunity? And so just giving things away for free is the wrong direction. Supporting people and helping them become engaged members of society to live the American dream, have a risk, and accept the outcome of that risk and get the reward, that's the American dream. And so our senior citizens, for the first time in our nation's history, because of the baby boomers, by the year 2030, we're gonna have more retirees than any other age group. And we need to be attracting those people to our beautiful state, where the climate is ideal, where the scenery is beautiful. It's a beautiful state. And so we need to look at our tax policies and attract those folks to our state so that they can live here, retire here, contribute, golf in our golf courses, volunteer in our civic and in our church organizations, and be productive members of our society. Right now, they choose Arizona.
What I'd heard about younger people getting all these freebies from government, of course, government is us, we're paying for it with our tax dollars, that I had heard that we're kind of robbing them of the dignity of raising their own families and that pride that it is, rather than having government with its restrictions raise your family.
You know, and that is 22 years in Sierra County since the age of 26, helping families reach their hopes and dreams. And sometimes that first hope and dream is buying a reliable car, or putting a down payment and owning a home instead of staying in public housing. And it's hard to do, because in this state, we heard a report during the session that if you are unemployed and you're accessing every benefit you can, you could be seeing the equivalent of up to $50 an hour being unemployed in the state, versus the difficulty of going to work. And we call it the cliff effect. So we need a governor with leadership who understands what it takes to get people off of dependency into self-sufficiency, and exactly what you said, knowing that it feels good. And it's contagious, because when you get that first car and then you own a home and you walk across that stage with that high school diploma you never got, and then you get an associate's degree, it is contagious, or a certificate degree, and you're making a good living, it is contagious and it feels good. And we need as many citizens as possible participating in the American dream in the state for us to turn it around and just build a conservative base, conservative principles that'll move our state towards success.
Otherwise, I don't think people realize they're going to be reliant on government for everything they want and need and beholden to a government.
Yeah, the government can only give you what they first take away.
Repeat that?
The government can only give you what they first take away. And in this time, it calls for bold leadership, for course correction.
Oh, course correction, it's big. Before we get too much further down the road to socialism.
I am concerned. I'm concerned about, we are a 245-year constitutional republic, unique in the world in that we have 50 individual states with individual state rights. And this COVID has given us an experiment. And we watch states like South Dakota and Texas and Florida stay open. A report just came out last week. We have the highest unemployment rate in the nation. We're the most locked down state. And we had the highest cases of COVID and per capita the highest COVID deaths. It did nothing but harm our education system, set us back economically, and cause people to flee our state who believe in freedom.
So Rebecca Dow, who wants to be governor of the state of New Mexico, what would you do on day 1 or day 90?
Well, my pledge to the folks that are watching who are picking who they're going to vote for in the primary is to set this state free from bad government. That smaller government is the best government. But on day 1, we've got to end the emergency health orders, and we must redeploy the National Guard to the border and say to our federal partners that have the ability to help us address human trafficking and the drugs that are flooding across our border to come in and help us secure our border. I've got the endorsement of the law enforcement officers down on the border. Grant, Hidalgo, and Luna County sheriffs have endorsed me because they know that I will do everything I can to help them secure the border. They're tired, they're alone. Our Border Patrol agents and all those down there, they're pretty much doing nothing more than processing people who are coming across the border illegally. We have got to secure the border. And we have got to make sure that we stop the human trafficking and the drug trafficking. It is a crisis. Fentanyl is the #1 cause of death in the United States right now. And New Mexico, with our open border, just last week the governor was interviewed and she said, fentanyl doesn't come across the border, it comes from China. That is how out of touch she is with the reality of what we're facing, not only our nation's sovereignty, but the crisis and the epidemic that is human trafficking and that is drug trafficking. We've got to secure the border.
They're not just Mexicans coming across the border, but that's what some people are thinking because it's coming from Mexico, but any other national.
Absolutely. So the last time that I was at the border and visiting the processing centers, it was a lot of folks from Turkey. And by the way, they're flying into Mexico with luggage and thousands of dollars, walking across our border. We're depositing their cash through an ATM machine, giving them free medical care, free dental care, assigning them an immigration attorney, 13 hours a week in a law library, and they're being processed and released into the states. I mean, that is better than what we do for our veterans. We have an $8.6 billion budget, and our budget for our veterans is less than $7 million.
$8.6 billion, which was just passed this past legislative, and
thanks to oil and gas.
Yeah, thanks.
And extracted.
Which again, regulations are to close down that industry or limit it severely.
No one's reducing their use, so all you're going to see is an increase of cost for your energy.
Wow, so that was the first day. How about the first 90 days?
We've got a lot of the things that need to happen require a House and a Senate to get a bill to the governor's desk. So on the issues of life, I'll sign pro-life bills that make it to my desk. On the issues of education reform, I'm going to lead that charge. If they are unwilling to make the reforms that we need to move New Mexico forward, then we're just going to have to go on Facebook. I learned one thing from the governor. You can go on Facebook and you can have rants all you want. Now, she was telling us to skip out on Christmas and Thanksgiving and Easter and not go to church. That's absolutely the wrong direction. I'm going to call out institutional racism where I believe it exists, which is in the public education system, particularly right here in Bernalillo County, where children who are disproportionately low income and children of color are stuck in failing school districts because of their zip code. It's time to let parents be engaged in their educational choices for their children and to let children attend a school where their needs will be met and they'll be able to thrive. So we got to work on school choice, but get government out of the way and go back to local governing authority, whether that's school boards, superintendents, administrators.
That's a hard reboot, Rebecca Dow. Hard reboot.
I'm ready for the challenge. I haven't done anything easy in my life, and this is no different.
You wanted to save, you're part of a pact to save the Western way of life. Explain that a little.
Yeah, and that means a lot. For some people it's because, we are a rural Western state. We do have large populations, but in general, we are a state that our Our income and our industry comes from use of public lands, and that's farming, it's ranching, it's mining, it's oil and gas. We're a western state, we're a border state. That's different for us. How we, what percentage of our land in New Mexico is state and federal is different as a western state. It means a lot. But I think when I think about our western way of life, I think about our Bill of Rights, I think about our Constitution, the right to bear arms. We're a people of faith. We want to go to church. Our governor didn't think churches were essential, but she thought abortion clinics were essential. So we value life, we value hard work, and we value our individual rights as to raise our family in the way that we believe, to engage in our community, to find solutions at the local level, and all of those are Western way of life to me. Are we going to be part of an electorate vote or a popular vote? That's Western state. Why would we give up our electorate vote for popular vote, which this governor wants to do, when there are 3 counties in California who have more population than our state? That makes no sense.
So Rebecca, you're well learned on all these issues. You've lived them. We've got just a minute to go. What have I not touched upon that you'd like to share with the audience?
I think the governor is the most powerful person in the state, and her job is to give the power back to the people. This governor has taken away our rights as parents, our rights as business owners, our rights as community leaders, and I want to give that power back to the people. We need folks to join our campaign. We're going to have to knock doors. We got to make calls. It's 93 days until the election. It'll be less than that by the time your viewers hear this. I need volunteers. I need people to join our team. They can call me on my cell phone. It's 575-571-1056. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Just look up Rebecca DOW, and you can look us up on our website, RebeccaForNM.com, and just join our team and help us get the word out.
And the word is giving back people their freedom, their
Absolutely.
liberty, and giving the power back to the people.
Yes.
Which is critical to perhaps for the state to move forward.
For our state to move forward, and I believe it's critical for our constitutional republic, and the very soul of who we are as a nation is at risk if we allow governors to be elected who believe in federalizing who we are.
On the campaign trail, what have people been telling you, Rebecca? I'm sure they've given you a lot of, you're very enthusiastic and a lot of energy. I think
awesome.
They're energizing you.
It's been awesome. I love being on the campaign trail. Campaigning's the easy part. Governing in a state where you're in the minority, that's going to be the hard part, but I'm up for that challenge too. But what I hear is solutions. I hear people who are excited and have innovative ideas for moving us forward in our economy. I meet teachers that are creative and leaders in our school districts that are innovators that need to be set free, and just let them do their job. And so it's very exciting. I'm meeting people every day that are part of the solutions that are plaguing our state for far too long.
That's encouragement to you and your campaign.
It is, definitely. And it should be encouraging to everyone listening. We've got solutions to every problem we face.
That is encouraging. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My guest today, Rebecca DOW. She is a Republican candidate running for governor. There is a primary this June 7th. We have a number of candidates running on the Republican ticket. We've invited all of them to be part of Issues and Answers, and Rebecca DOW graciously accepted, and we introduce her to you today. Thank you so much for watching this program. I'm Diane Kinderwater, and we do appreciate KCHF TV for inviting these candidates and giving them a half hour to explain who they are. But you can also look them up on the web and find all about Rebecca DOW and the other candidates. Thanks again. Make it a great week with your family. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
In the Army National Guard, family means everything.
Our parents, they were really supportive that all 5 of us would join. I got my education because of the Guard. I got to travel a little bit and experience a whole different culture. It helped me get my job, helped me pay for my house. Being part-time really helped because I could have some opportunities that were still in education.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard instills pride that you and your family will share. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more about part-time service.
Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. To comment on today's program or to purchase a copy of any Issues and Answers program, visit sunbroadcasting.org or call us at 505-345-1991.